starting this video off on a really either funny or tremendously sacrilegious note. So I'm currently working on this pullover, and it's a design where there's a knit purl pattern. This project has worked flat at first, so you start with the back piece, shaping for the armholes, and then you pick up the left and front panels and then knit those down and you join it all in the round. And the section in the back where I went to join in the front, somehow I ended up with this chunk of knit stitches. I don't know how obvious it is on camera, but it's insanely obvious in person, and even though it is in the back, I'm gonna think about it when I wear it, and it's gonna make me not want to wear it, and I want to wear this. So I thought, okay, I should frog it, I should be a responsible knitter. But then I thought, what if I used a sneaky little tapestry needle and just sewed in some fake purl stitches over top of the knit stitches. I tried to Google this as a technique, and you know something's bad when even the internet doesn't even know what you were talking about. Anyway, I'll do a little before and after, and I'll let you know if this works or was worth it.
Soft and sweet, she woke me, so tiny and alive. Unspoken question, never for a child, and still she answers, Pacific wild.
Hi everybody, happy belated Christmas. I hope everyone had a lovely holiday, whether you celebrate or not, or just having a nice, relaxing December. I have been a little bit all over the place. I haven't had time yet to sit down and focus on learning about my rigid heddle loom, which I mentioned in my last video. Feeling super incredibly lucky that I have the opportunity to learn how to weave next year. I am currently in nursing school, so I'm not quite sure how much time I will have to dedicate to weaving in addition to knitting and also spinning in the next year, since my matchless shack spinning wheel is coming, I believe, in the next week or so. Anyway, I'm hoping I will have time to be able to shoot some content related to that, but for sure I will have knitting content, as that is my primary thing at the moment. Speaking of knitting, this is a recently completed project. This is, I'll go ahead and insert the pattern details right here. This came out really, really wonderfully. This was my first time doing this kind of decrease where it creates this nice straight line, and I just love how that turned out. This was knit up in a size small, which is typically my size in patterns. While I was knitting it, I felt like it looked really big, and so I'm really grateful that I just stuck with it and trusted the process, because the ribbing really brought the size in quite a lot. But overall, loved this pattern. I loved the construction of it. I felt like I learned a lot. Knitting this project really made me reflect a lot on the progress I've made since I started knitting in December of 2021, I believe. I made a gray sweater vest this time, or last summer, summer of 2022, and I'll insert some pictures of that. It is kind of mind-boggling to look at the difference between the skill that this vest required compared to that vest, and how there's some kind of visual mistakes in that one that are not so great, and it was just really cool to see the progress. I am interested in making a video about the mistakes that I've made being a novice knitter and sort of what those mistakes are and how I have adapted to increase my skills, talking about the projects that really educated me to become a more skilled knitter, and maybe pattern styles that I would recommend versus not recommending for a beginner knitter, as well as different yarns or supplies that I think are helpful. But anyway, this is the newest project. I just wanted to quickly talk about 2 books that I was gifted for Christmas, both sheep related, of course. So the first one is a pattern book by Knitting for Olive. I have never owned a pattern book before. I've only ever knit off of Ravelry PDF patterns. So really excited to be able to try knitting from a book. I'm a big paper person. I take my notes in school on paper. I write paper lists. I just really enjoy physical mediums of things. So really excited about being able to pick out projects from this book. I'm also hoping to add the Iciger book to my new little collection of knitting books. They recently came out with a second pattern book, and I've never knit anything from them before. I've also never knit anything from Knitting for Olive somehow. I do have a couple of Knitting for Olive yarns. I have the mohair yarn that you can see on the back of this, but anyway, really excited to pick a project from here, and the photography is just beautiful, and this will make a really awesome coffee table book as well. The other book that I was given was The Lost Flock by Jane Cooper. This book was published this year. It's really fascinating so far. It's about this woman who works with this really rare breed of sheep in the UK, and there's a lot of really fascinating little tidbits of information in this book. Really interesting pieces of information about the history of wool. I'm only on page 74, so I'm about roughly halfway through the book. But so far I found it to just be really fascinating. One of the things that she talks about is the history of wool in sailboats. Historically, Viking sails were made of 100% wool, and she was saying how it would take 2,000 sheep to make the square sail for one large Viking ship. So just one sail alone for that ship, 2,000 sheep, which I just thought was so incredible, because it's not just the sheep, it's the shearing, it's the skirting of the wool, it's the processing of that wool, it's the spinning, just for one product. I thought that was so interesting. And then she was saying later how, in addition to the needs of sailboats, just for the use of clothing and other wool goods like that, to be able to supply the needs for all the Nordic regions of the time, the Viking flocks would have needed to have a total of 2 million sheep. So that's just for that Nordic region. And so it's pretty overwhelming to think now of the global need of wool and cotton. And I mean, this is kind of an endless list of things when you think about the supply chain of needs for the world, for clothing, for food, whatever the thing is. I really love reading books like this that remind me of these needs, because it's really shocking to think about the fast fashion industry and the way that we use materials and the wastefulness that exists in our clothing industry, when just back in the day when they were doing only items of necessity, it was still 2 million sheep for just that one small region. So I just really enjoy reading anything that reminds me why I sort of began my knitting journey to begin with, and just the importance of slow fashion and handcrafted materials. Very important, and would really, really recommend this book so far. It is very fascinating. Alright, that is it for today's video. I don't have many other updates. Again, since it's been the holiday season, I've just sort of been all over the place. But thank you so much for joining on this year's Vlogmas. I'm really excited about sharing some upcoming progress on my nomad jacket and my heirloom quilt cardigan. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I appreciate you watching as always. I'll see you next time. Bye.